Have you ever felt like the villain in your own mother's story? Every step you take toward greatness, met with sabotage, silence, or even cutting words. Instead of receiving pride or encouragement, you're left feeling like you're betraying her simply by thriving. If this resonates with you, you're not alone. For those who are singled out by narcissistic mothers, the reality is much darker. It's not love gone wrong, it's hate cleverly disguised as care. Narcissistic mothers don't hate you for who you are, they hate you for what you represent. You are undeniable proof of the potential they never had. Your vitality serves as a stark reflection of everything they've long since lost, and your very existence threatens the fragile power they've fought so hard to maintain. To them, you are their mirror, but instead of seeing love or admiration, they see competition, rebellion, and constant reminders of their own perceived inadequacy. This hatred isn't passive, it's weaponized. It takes the form of sabotage, silent treatment when you succeed, and words that aim to hit you at your core. It's not a random reaction, but a targeted attack. And sadly, you've been in their crosshairs for far too long. If you're ready to step out of their shadow, to break free from their toxic grip, here's why narcissistic mothers harbor such deep resentment toward you. The first reason is simple: you threaten their control and their image. Your independence, confidence, and ability to succeed without their validation clash violently with their insatiable need for dominance. They thrive on being the center of attention, the unquestioned authority in every room, the keeper of all power. Your autonomy, your ability to thrive without needing their approval, is a slap in the face to their fragile ego. It's a declaration that you don't need them to define you, and that drives them into a spiral of rage and insecurity. The second reason narcissistic mothers hate you is rooted in jealousy specifically, their jealousy of your natural abilities. The way you draw others in, your charm, your accomplishments, they can barely conceal their envy. To them, your light casts an unbearable shadow over their desperate need for attention and validation. Every compliment you receive feels like something stolen from them, and every success is a painful reminder of what they could never achieve. As the chosen one, your talent doesn't just shine, it overshadows them. And to a narcissistic mother, this isn't cause for pride or celebration, it's an unforgivable offense. Where you see growth, she sees betrayal. Where others celebrate your achievements, she plots to bring you down. Her jealousy manifests in veiled criticisms, sabotage disguised as concern, and endless comparisons meant to diminish you. To her, your talents and charisma aren't gifts, they're weapons you wield against her. Every ounce of admiration you earn feels like a theft from her, a loss she can't afford. The third reason narcissistic mothers hate you is because they project their own insecurities and shortcomings onto you. Instead of confronting their emotional wounds and failures, they weaponize you as a scapegoat, transferring their fears, their doubts, and their unresolved pain onto you. They turn your presence into a reflection of everything they cannot face within themselves, and you become the target for all their unhealed wounds. In all of this, it's important to remember you didn't choose this rivalry, you were born into it. But it's time to break free from this toxic cycle. Narcissistic mothers thrive on control, jealousy, and projecting their pain onto you. But your worth is not determined by their manipulation. Your light, your achievements, your journey are yours to own. Don't let anyone, especially someone who is supposed to love you, dim your light or make you feel like you're in the wrong for simply existing as your true self. Your path is not about competing with them, but about healing, growing, and embracing who you are. Step out of the shadows, take back your power, and let your light shine brightly. It's time to stop being the villain in her story. It's time to write your own. If you've ever found yourself constantly battling with your mother's criticisms, sabotage, and disdain, you may be feeling like a villain in your own life story. Every step forward toward success seems to be met with a force that tries to pull you down. It's not just a toxic relationship, it's a battle for control, identity, and self-worth. But for those of us who are the chosen ones, especially those with narcissistic mothers, it's not love gone wrong, it's hate disguised as concern. Narcissistic mothers don't hate you for who you are, they hate you for what you represent: undeniable potential. You are a reflection of the vitality they once had but have long since lost. To them, your life is a threat to the fragile power they've clung to. You are a mirror of everything they have not achieved, a glaring reminder of what they wish they could be. But rather than recognizing your success as something to be proud of, they see it as a direct threat. They are deeply insecure, and when they see you thrive, it forces them to confront everything they could have been if they had chosen growth over control. Unfortunately, instead of learning from this, they tear you down, fearing what your success exposes about their own failures. When narcissistic mothers see you excelling in areas they couldn't, their immediate reaction is to attack. They want to crush your confidence because in their twisted minds, by doing so, they can silence the voice of their own inadequacy. Every criticism, every attempt to sabotage your success is not about you, it's a projection of everything they cannot accept about themselves. They are terrified that your success will force them to confront the cracks in the image they've so carefully crafted. They want to keep you small so that they can remain the center of attention and control in their own fragile world. But it gets even deeper. The fourth reason narcissistic mothers harbor such disdain for you is rooted in their fear of being exposed. Your growth, independence, and success shine a light on the cracks in the facade they've spent a lifetime constructing. They have carefully built an image of themselves as the perfect, all-knowing mother, and your progress threatens to expose this illusion for what it is: a lie. The more you succeed, the more people start to see the gap between the mother they've been told about and the one you know all too well. This exposure terrifies them. They fear the whispers, the judgment, the eventual collapse of the perfect image they've painstakingly put together. In retaliation, they resort to disdain, sabotage, and even public humiliation. All of this is designed to keep you in check, to maintain their mask of perfection, and to keep you from revealing the truth. Their hatred is not about who you are, but about what you threaten to expose about them. Another deeply ingrained reason narcissistic mothers hate you is because your individuality challenges their expectations. As the chosen one, you represent a defiance of the mold they have tried to create for you. They don't see your uniqueness as a strength to them. It's an inconvenience, a disruption. They want you to be a reflection of their own desires and goals, not your own. Your refusal to conform to their vision of who you should be shakes the very foundation of their fragile identity. For years, they've built their sense of self-worth around the idea that you are an extension of them, someone they can control, shape, and mold into what they believe is best. But when you start carving your own path, making your own choices, and having your own desires, it's more than just defiance, it's a direct threat to their power. It exposes the lie they've lived by, that they hold all the control. Your independence makes them feel irrelevant, and they cannot stand it. This fear of losing control is so strong that narcissistic mothers will diminish your achievements, mock your choices, and accuse you of disloyalty in an attempt to drag you back under their control. They will do anything to maintain the upper hand, even if it means tearing you down. But here's the truth: their hatred is not about who you are, but about who they aren't. You embody the freedom they will never have, and that scares them. They can't stand that you are becoming everything they could never be, and they'll stop at nothing to stop it. Finally, the sixth reason narcissistic mothers hate you is rooted in their fear of you surpassing them. Your brilliance, your potential, your capacity to achieve terrifies them because it threatens to outshine the image they've carefully cultivated for themselves. The thought of you achieving more than they ever did is something they can't bear to confront. If you succeed in ways they never could, it's a direct reflection of their failure to fulfill their own potential. The narcissistic mother sees your success as a constant reminder of their unfulfilled dreams, and they can't stand it. Instead of celebrating your achievements, they fear you will outshine them, making them feel small and irrelevant. In all of this, the painful truth remains: you didn't choose this rivalry. You were born into it. But it's time to understand that their hate isn't about you, it's about their own deep-seated insecurities and fears. Your light, your achievements, and your independence are not things to shrink away from, they are things to embrace. You do not have to conform to their expectations or remain under their control. Your path is your own, and no one can take away your worth or dim your brilliance. The challenge now is to break free from their grip and start living authentically, knowing that your true power lies in who you are, not who they want you to be. In the world of narcissistic mothers, your greatness is never seen as something to be celebrated. Instead, it serves as a painful reminder of all the things she has not achieved, her unrealized dreams, the power she failed to acquire, and the deep insecurity she hides behind a mask of control. Much like the myth of Cronus devouring his children to maintain his rule, a narcissistic mother will stop at nothing to undermine your success. Every achievement you reach is met with sabotage, every victory is dismissed or downplayed, and all your progress is seen as a threat to the fragile power she has carefully constructed. To her, your rise represents her failure, and your success forces her to confront everything she wishes to avoid. Instead of pride, she feels dread. She will criticize everything she cannot control, downplay everything she cannot deny, and hold on to the belief that you are nothing without her. Her hatred is not a simple emotion, it's a defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to keep her fragile sense of superiority intact. However, this deep fear of your greatness is rooted in something more insidious. She is terrified of the reflection you represent. Your light exposes her mediocrity, and the truth of her inadequacy becomes undeniable. To maintain the illusion she's built for herself, she must destroy what she claims to love. The very thing that represents her failure, your success, is what she seeks to tear down. Another key reason narcissistic mothers feel such a deep sense of animosity toward you is the fear of abandonment. As you develop your own identity, build meaningful relationships, and create a life independent of her influence, she experiences a deep, gnawing anxiety. Every bond you form outside of her control is a threat to her. It is a reminder that her grip over you is slipping, and that the narrative she has constructed that you exist to serve her has begun to unravel. She cannot accept that you are capable of thriving without her. In her mind, your independence is a betrayal of the role she believes she should always play in your life. To her, your success, your independence, is not a triumph, it is an affront to her identity. It exposes the limitations of the power she has clung to for so long. And when you become more autonomous, her fear intensifies, and her desperate need to regain control manifests in guilt, manipulation, and even sabotage. She will accuse you of being ungrateful, question your loyalty, and create crises designed to pull you back into her orbit. Her obsession with tethering you to her, emotionally and psychologically, is relentless. It is driven by her inability to accept the truth your life does not revolve around her, and you are not hers to control. In response, her manipulation becomes more sophisticated. Every success you have, every smile you share with someone outside of her, is a battlefield. Her aim is to reassert her dominance, to remind you that you are supposed to be hers and hers alone. The more you grow, the more she panics, and the more she will try to tear you down. Her hatred isn't just about control, it's about keeping her identity intact. She needs to believe that her power is all-encompassing, and that any victory you achieve is her victory, by extension. But what she does not understand is that your achievements are not a reflection of her failure, they are a reflection of your strength and resilience. What makes this dynamic so destructive is that it poisons the very bond she claims to protect, the mother-child relationship. The truth is, as much as she tries to manipulate you, as much as she tries to control you, her love is twisted by insecurity, fear, and the need to maintain dominance. She may act as though she is protecting you, but in reality she is using you to protect herself from the deep fear of being exposed. I believe that for the chosen ones, those who bear the weight of this manipulation, the truth becomes a double-edged sword. The truth will indeed set you free, but it is often too much to handle. For many, this truth can be painful to confront. To realize that your mother, someone who should be your biggest supporter, is actually your greatest adversary can be a life-shattering revelation. Yet this understanding is essential for reclaiming your power and your peace. As difficult as it may be, acknowledging the truth about a narcissistic mother is the first step toward healing. The emotional toll of growing up under the control of such a person is immense, but breaking free from this cycle is necessary for your mental and emotional well-being. You must recognize that your worth is not determined by her, and your success does not diminish her in any way. Ultimately, the only way to move forward is by accepting that her behavior is rooted in her own fears, not in any reflection of you. Your success, your happiness, and your independence are not threats to anyone but to the illusion she's desperately tried to create. When you understand this, you can stop internalizing her hatred and begin to focus on building a life that is truly yours, free from her manipulative influence. The journey of healing from this dynamic is challenging, but it is not impossible. It begins with the understanding that you are not the villain in your own story. The truth will set you free, but only if you are brave enough to embrace it. In the realm of narcissistic mothers, boundaries become the ultimate battleground. When you, as the chosen one, decide to set limits in order to protect your energy and autonomy, they perceive it not as a healthy choice but as a blatant act of defiance. Every no you assert is twisted into rebellion. Every time you prioritize your own well-being over their demands, it feels like a direct insult to their authority. For a narcissistic mother, boundaries are not simply personal limits, they are viewed as betrayals. Your refusal to cater to her every whim is like a thorn in her side. It forces her to confront the reality that she no longer has the same control over you that she once did, and this sends her into a spiral of resentment and hostility. Instead of respecting your right to set boundaries, she responds with escalating measures to break them down. This could manifest in guilt trips designed to manipulate you into compliance, subtle or not so subtle attempts to shame you through others, or outright punishment in the form of silence or rage. In her eyes, your need for autonomy is not just a personal preference, it is a direct challenge to her power. The more you assert your right to exist outside of her control, the more she digs in her heels, doing everything in her power to dismantle your boundaries. To her, your desire for freedom isn't a healthy expression of individuality, it is an act of treachery. And as her resentment builds, her behavior becomes even more toxic, because it's easier for her to destroy your confidence than admit that she cannot control you. The more you stand in your own truth, the more dangerous you become to the illusion she has spent her life building. This brings us to the next reason narcissistic mothers hate you: you expose their intergenerational trauma. By recognizing the toxic patterns they have inherited and passed down, you force them to confront the family dynamics they have spent years, if not a lifetime, avoiding. Your clarity and refusal to participate in the same destructive behaviors highlight the cycle of dysfunction they have tried to normalize and bury. In a way, your healing journey forces them to face the painful truth of their own failures. When you choose healing over silence, independence over compliance, and growth over denial, you make their hidden pain and unresolved trauma impossible to ignore. It's not just that you refuse to carry forward the generational wounds they resent you, because your very existence is a mirror that reflects their own inability to break free from the chains of their past. Your willingness to heal is a threat to their narrative, and it demands accountability for the destructive behaviors they've passed down, whether they want to face it or not. This dynamic is powerful and intense because, as the chosen one, your strength, clarity, and independence shine a light on the dysfunction they have worked so hard to conceal. Your refusal to repeat the cycle of pain forces them to reckon with their own choices, exposing their role in perpetuating harm. But they won't acknowledge this easily. Instead of embracing the opportunity to break free from their past, they will often try to discredit your healing journey, because it challenges the very foundation of their identity. This truth is uncomfortable, but it's a powerful realization. By choosing to break the cycle of toxicity, you are not only healing yourself, you are also unwittingly holding a mirror, up to those who have hurt you. And this mirror reflects not just their behavior, but their unwillingness to confront it. This, of course, can make you a target for more emotional sabotage, but ultimately it is through this confrontation that true healing and liberation can take place. In my opinion, the journey of setting boundaries and healing from a narcissistic mother's influence is one of the most transformative processes a person can go through. It's a process that requires strength, courage, and unwavering commitment to self-love and self-respect. The truth you carry about your autonomy and your ability to break free from destructive patterns is something that narcissistic mothers may never fully understand or accept. But the moment you realize that your healing is not just about you, it's about breaking free from the generational cycles of pain, you begin to walk in a power that they cannot touch. It's the power of breaking the chains that have held you in generations before you captive. And that, my friends, is not only your right, it's your destiny. When you begin to defy the patterns of dysfunction they've carefully woven, you expose their role in perpetuating these toxic cycles. This revelation is rarely met with gratitude or understanding. Instead, it triggers resentment, anger, and an immediate desire to tear you down. A narcissistic mother would rather vilify you than face the painful truths you've uncovered. In standing in your power, you hold up a mirror to them, forcing them to confront their own failures and the emotional harm they've caused, things they would much rather avoid. Rather than simply opposing you, narcissistic mothers resort to deliberate sabotage. Their tactics are insidious, designed to erode your confidence, undermine your achievements, and keep you dependent on their control. Every success you have is dismissed as mere luck. They invalidate your struggles as weakness and plant seeds of self-doubt, making you question your worth. This isn't random, it's a calculated strategy to prevent you from growing beyond the small world they've created for you. When you rise, they find ways to drag you back down, sabotaging relationships, stirring up conflict, or withholding support when you need it most. Their goal is clear: to keep you tethered to their shadow, forever smaller, manageable, and dependent. At the heart of this manipulation is emotional control. Narcissistic mothers use guilt with precision, constantly reminding you of sacrifices they claim they made on your behalf, sacrifices you never asked for. They twist your natural desire for independence into an accusation of selfishness, and when you set healthy boundaries, they frame them as betrayals. Every move you make toward autonomy is met with doses of shame, making you feel undeserving of the freedom you crave. Gaslighting is their ultimate weapon. They distort your perception of reality so thoroughly that you begin to doubt your own memories and feelings. They rewrite history to fit their narrative, denying the hurtful things they've said or done, and accusing you of being too sensitive or ungrateful. Their aim is not just to manipulate the present, but to make you reliant on their version of truth. They want you to question your own judgment, to become unsure of your perception of events, and ultimately to abandon your own reality in favor of their control. This manipulation isn't a byproduct of their behavior. It's a carefully crafted strategy to suppress your individuality and maintain dominance over you. The more you fight to reclaim your sense of self, the tighter they grip. Every step you take toward healing and independence is met with increased interference. They sabotage your success, not because they can't understand it, but because it threatens their fragile sense of control. Your accomplishments, no matter how hard-earned, are belittled. They may dismiss your hard work as luck or privilege, or even downplay your achievements as inconsequential. Their praise is often veiled with backhanded compliments or subtle criticisms, designed to sap your confidence and make you doubt your own abilities. To them, your success is not something to be celebrated, it's a threat to the power they hold over you. In their eyes, you are not allowed to outgrow them. Their need to maintain control over every aspect of your life is paramount, and your growth challenges that control in the most direct way possible. They see your autonomy as a betrayal, a rebellion against the power they have over you. This desire to keep you small, manageable, and dependent is what drives their constant interference. They want to shape you in their image, to keep you tethered to them. and to prevent you from ever becoming the full, independent person you're meant to be. The truth is that narcissistic mothers view their children not as individuals, but as extensions of themselves. When you thrive, they feel diminished. When you succeed, they feel insecure. This dynamic creates a toxic cycle where your very existence forces them to confront their own inadequacies. But instead of facing those truths and growing from them, they attempt to tear you down. It's not about you at all, it's about their inability to handle the reflection of their own failures in your success. In the end, the battle isn't just about breaking free from control, it's about reclaiming your identity and your worth. Narcissistic mothers do everything in their power to destroy that sense of self, but the more you resist, the stronger you become. The key to liberation is remembering that your worth is not defined by their approval or their version of reality. Your success, your independence, and your growth are your own, and no amount of manipulation or sabotage can take that away. But the manipulation doesn't end there. Narcissistic mothers will interfere with your opportunities at every turn, subtly sabotaging your progress in ways that are difficult to pinpoint. Whether it's sowing seeds of doubt right before you have to make an important decision, withholding support at the moment you need it most, or creating unnecessary drama to distract you from your goals, their interference is always intentional. They will do anything to keep you from succeeding beyond their control. This tactic can be likened to the myth of Arachne, where Athena's jealousy led her to destroy a talent she couldn't match. Similarly, narcissistic mothers tear down your achievements not because you failed, but because you succeeded without them. Your success forces them to confront their own insecurities and their inability to control everything, and this is something they can't stand. To maintain dominance over you, they will do everything in their power to keep you questioning your worth. They will make you doubt your every step forward, undermining your confidence at every turn. One of the most insidious tactics they use is favoritism. By elevating one child to golden child status and branding another as the scapegoat, narcissistic mothers create a divide and conquer situation. If you're the chosen one, you might find yourself in the position of the scapegoat, where every move you make is scrutinized, criticized, and held against you. Meanwhile, the golden child is idolized, sheltered from accountability, and elevated above all others. This dynamic isn't an accident, it's a carefully calculated strategy designed to keep the family fragmented and focused on competing for the narcissistic mother's approval, rather than questioning her behavior. The golden child, despite being the favored one, isn't free from the toxic dynamic. Their worth is tethered to constantly meeting impossible standards, and when they inevitably fall short, they too are made to feel unworthy. But the scapegoat, the one who is blamed for every failure, conflict, and imperfection, bears the brunt of this toxicity. This favoritism, this division, isn't about fairness or genuine love. It's about power. By fostering distrust and rivalry between siblings, the narcissistic mother keeps everyone from uniting against the real source of dysfunction herself. The golden child may bask in the temporary warmth of her approval, but the pressure to meet impossible expectations is an exhausting burden. The scapegoat, on the other hand, is isolated, made to feel inferior, and blamed for everything. This division is a tool, not an accident, and its purpose is clear: to maintain control, prevent unity, and ensure loyalty remains firmly centered on her. Another insidious tactic is isolation. Narcissistic mothers sever your connections to anyone who might offer you support, who might empower you to break free from their hold. They create distrust in your relationships, sowing conflict between you and friends, extended family, mentors, or anyone who could challenge their control. They'll tell you that no one truly cares for you, and that they alone have your best interests at heart, all while spinning lies to keep you dependent on their approval. Emotional dependency is their goal, and they'll go to great lengths to ensure it. But their manipulation doesn't end with emotional control. Financial dependency is often the final nail in the coffin that keeps you tethered to them. They'll dismiss your career aspirations, guilt-trip you into staying close, and sabotage your efforts to gain independence. The more you try to stand on your own, the more they will find ways to keep you bound to them, ensuring that even as you grow older, you remain under their thumb. The truth behind this behavior is simple: narcissistic mothers cannot stand to see their children thrive without them. Your independence, your success, your connections outside of their control are all threats to their fragile sense of power. And so they manipulate, isolate, and sabotage, keeping you small and manageable, forever tethered to their version of reality. It's a toxic, suffocating dynamic, and breaking free from it requires immense strength and resilience. The hardest part of healing from this type of manipulation is the realization that your worth was never tied to their approval. Your true power lies in your ability to rise above their control, to break free from the web of dependence they've woven, and to reclaim your life on your own terms. Narcissistic mothers have a knack for keeping you bound to them, often dangling the illusion of love or support as a form of leverage. They know how to use affection as a tool to manipulate your choices and control your behavior. This is not about genuinely wanting to protect you, but about ensuring that you stay under their dominance. They fear your autonomy because it challenges their authority, and they work tirelessly to dismantle your support system, piece by piece, until you feel completely isolated and powerless. They aim to weaken you, to make you believe that you are nothing without them. This isolation is part of a strategy to keep you tethered to them. Every time you try to rebuild a connection or seek support from others, it's seen as a threat. And so they sabotage those connections, either by sowing seeds of doubt, creating conflict, or simply undermining those who might offer you the strength to break free. Narcissistic mothers understand that their control thrives on your isolation. The more alone you feel, the more dependent you become on them. But every connection you rebuild and every bridge you strengthen is a step closer to escaping their suffocating grip and reclaiming your autonomy. Narcissistic families often operate like carefully orchestrated plays, where everyone is assigned a specific role to ensure the narcissistic parent maintains absolute control. These roles are not random or accidental; they are carefully calculated assignments designed to divide, manipulate, and dominate. If you've ever experienced it, you know the emotional cost of being cast into one of these roles. For example, the golden child is put on a pedestal, constantly praised and showered with admiration. However, this admiration is not unconditional. It comes with the heavy expectation of perfection. The golden child exists as an extension of the narcissistic parent's ego, and their worth is directly tied to their ability to uphold the idealized image the parent has for them. Failure to meet these impossibly high standards is not an option, and the pressure to maintain this image is suffocating. Behind the facade of favoritism lies constant fear of being replaced or losing the narcissistic parent's approval. On the other hand, the scapegoat bears the weight of blame for every flaw, mistake, or conflict in the family. This child becomes the outlet for the narcissistic parent's frustrations and failures. The scapegoat is the designated target, often blamed for things that are not their fault. No matter what they achieve, it is never enough to redeem them in the eyes of the narcissistic parent. Every misstep, no matter how small, is amplified to reinforce the idea that they are the problem in the family. The scapegoat becomes the emotional punching bag, unfairly carrying the burden of the family's dysfunction. The invisible child, as the name suggests, is left to fade into the background. Their needs are ignored, and their existence barely acknowledged. They are denied the spotlight, and often feel as though their voice doesn't matter. This role can be one of the most painful, as the invisible child often grapples with a deep sense of worthlessness. They may go through life feeling overlooked, invisible, as if no one cares enough to see their struggles or offer them the validation they desperately need. Then, there is the chosen one. This role is perhaps the most complex, as it combines both praise and sabotage. The chosen one's potential is recognized, but it's also weaponized by the narcissistic parent. They are held up as the standard for success, but at the same time, their success is constantly undermined. The narcissistic parent views the chosen one's achievements as a threat as if their success could overshadow or outshine the parent's control. They are both lauded and punished, caught in a web of contradictory treatment that leaves them questioning their own value. This dual-edged role creates confusion and self-doubt, as the chosen one is never quite sure whether they are being praised for their accomplishments or punished for being too successful. These roles, while they may shift, are ultimately designed to serve the narcissistic parent's need for control. They keep the family fragmented, ensuring that each child competes with the others for the narcissist's approval. This division prevents the siblings from uniting against the real source of dysfunction, the narcissistic parent. Instead of focusing on the truth or healing, the children are forced to focus on pleasing the parent and gaining their favor, no matter the cost. What is often the hardest part of growing up in this environment is realizing that these roles are not a reflection of your worth, but of the narcissistic parent's need for control. The golden child, despite all their praise, is burdened by perfectionism. The scapegoat is burdened by blame, the invisible child by neglect, and the chosen one by sabotage. Each role distorts the child's identity, leaving them feeling lost, confused, and uncertain about who they really are. The parent thrives on these dynamics, and as long as the children remain divided, isolated, and uncertain, the narcissistic parent remains in power. In my personal view, the most damaging aspect of these family roles is the long-lasting effect they have on an individual's sense of self. The emotional scars can take years, even a lifetime, to heal. It's a cycle of manipulation that leaves deep psychological wounds, often making the children question their value, their choices, and their own perceptions of reality. But the truth is, these roles are not who you are. They are constructs designed to serve the narcissist's needs, not yours. Breaking free from this dynamic is incredibly difficult, but it's the first step toward reclaiming your autonomy and finding your true self, outside the suffocating grip of a narcissistic family system. I once worked with someone who embodied the painful paradox of being the chosen one in their family. Their relatives expected them to excel, to outshine everyone else, as if their success would somehow validate the entire household. But the moment they achieved anything, the narrative shifted. Suddenly, they were accused of arrogance, ridiculed for being too proud, or subjected to snide remarks meant to cut them down to size. Their victories, rather than being celebrated, became ammunition to fuel the family's resentment, keeping them locked in a cycle of endless striving and inevitable criticism. This dynamic is not unique. As the chosen one, you are held to impossibly high standards. You are expected to be the family's beacon of hope and achievement. But every step you take upwards feels like walking a tightrope. The golden child is showered with praise, the scapegoat is blamed for everything, and the invisible child is ignored altogether. Meanwhile, you are burdened with the crushing responsibility of representing the family's success, only to be punished for standing out too much. This duality leaves deep scars. You learn to excel not out of joy, but out of fear, and every accomplishment becomes another reason for the family to tighten their grip on you. Favoritism in narcissistic families is not a gift, it's a trap. As the chosen one, you are praised one moment and resented the next, leaving you constantly questioning your every move. The compliments feel hollow, strings attached, tethering your self-worth to their approval. When you succeed, they take credit, or accuse you of showing off. When you falter, the resentment sharpens, serving as a reminder that their love is always conditional. This paradox leaves you emotionally drained, caught between the need to please and the exhaustion of never being enough. Their praise isn't validation, it's a leash, designed to keep you under control. As the chosen one, your self-worth becomes inextricably tied to your performance. You battle insecurities, a fear of failure, and struggle with trusting others. Early conditioning teaches you to overachieve or people-please, sacrificing your own needs in pursuit of approval that never truly comes. Boundaries feel foreign, and perfectionism becomes your shield against the constant threat of criticism. Viktor Frankl once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, We are challenged to change ourselves for you. Reclaiming your identity means breaking free from these destructive patterns. Your worth is not tied to their approval, and your strength lies in redefining who you are beyond their control. Healing and thriving as a chosen one requires deliberate, courageous action, starting with setting firm boundaries, not as mere suggestions but as clear limits against toxic behaviors. You deserve to be seen for who you truly are, not just for what you can achieve for others. Setting firm boundaries is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect you can take. Recognizing patterns of manipulation or sabotage and refusing to let them dictate your choices is not just about protecting yourself, it's a declaration of your worth. Your boundaries become the foundation for your healing, and they send a clear message to those around you that you will no longer be defined by their toxic behaviors. It is essential to protect your energy and honor your own needs. In addition to setting boundaries, seeking external support is critical. Build a network of allies, friends, mentors, or support groups who uplift and empower you. Surrounding yourself with people who see your worth beyond the chaos of narcissistic dynamics can remind you that you are not alone. The strength of a supportive community can be a powerful antidote to the isolation often imposed by narcissistic families. Let others reflect back to you the truth of who you are and help you reclaim your sense of self-worth, which often gets lost in the tumult of family dysfunction. Next, cultivate your self-worth through personal growth and self-compassion. The habit of seeking external validation is deeply ingrained for many of us, especially when raised in environments where approval was conditional. It's time to start recognizing your achievements not as a means to please others, but as proof of your resilience and potential. Celebrate your progress no matter how small and prioritize your emotional and mental well-being. Healing involves learning to recognize your own value and stop relying on others to define it. If, despite your best efforts, the relationship remains toxic, you must consider distancing yourself. This could mean minimizing contact or, if necessary, cutting ties entirely. Protecting your peace is not betrayal, it's survival. It's important to understand that by choosing yourself, you are not abandoning anyone, especially not your true self. Sometimes, distancing yourself from the toxicity is the only way to preserve your sanity, happiness, and future. Take inspiration from Norse mythology, where Yggdrasil, the world tree, stands unshaken through storms, axes, and decay. Like Yggdrasil, you can endure adversity, transform your pain into strength, and become a beacon of renewal. The storms of life will continue to rage, but your roots are deep, and your capacity for growth is limitless. You are built for resilience. Your strength is forged in the fires of resentment and manipulation, and now it is time to wield it. Narcissistic mothers hate your independence because it threatens their control. Your success stirs their jealousy, and your potential exposes their insecurities. They will do everything in their power to sabotage, manipulate, and project their pain onto you, attempting to mold you into something you are not. But remember, their hatred is not your identity, it is merely a reflection of their own brokenness. Their chaos does not define your worth. You have the power to break free from their grip. Setting boundaries is not rebellion, it's survival. Seeking support is not weakness, it's strength. Prioritizing your growth is not selfish, it's necessary. You are not only surviving, you are thriving. Your resilience is your birthright, and now is the time to embrace it. Your light is not meant to be dimmed, it was meant to shine brightly. You were chosen to rise, to endure, and to break free. Reclaim your voice, embrace your power, and build the life you deserve. Your story matters. Your truth has the power to ignite courage in others. Share your journey not as a plea for sympathy, but as a declaration of victory. Speak your truth, and let the world see the strength that cannot be silenced. Your journey, your voice, and your resilience are the gifts that you will offer to the world, showing others that they too can rise above their struggles and claim their power.